Louise Elizabeth Moyer. Louise, Louise, Elizabeth E is all right.
Yeah.
Moyer. Moyer.
Yeah. Mrs. Moyer, where were you born?
Kansas, near Moundridge, between Moundridge and Newton.
Okay.
We had a home, my folks came from, well, they came from Germany.
Oh.
And they lived in Moundridge first. And
When's your birthday?
well, I can think a minute. I know, but I can't. I'm just a little bit slow.
Mm-hmm.
May the 18th.
What year?
19, oh, wait a minute. What would 1890 make? Is that right? I'm not.
Yeah, you're 93 years old, that'd be 1890.
That's right. I'll be 94 though in next May. Next May.
Yeah.
That's not here yet.
Yeah. Who was your father?
Christian Lotcher.
What's the last name?
Lotcher. Latschar. Lotcher. Some call it Latcher. We
Yeah.
always called it Lotcher.
He was from Germany?
Yeah, yes. And my mother was too.
What was her name?
Elizabeth New, N-E-U. N-E-U. Elizabeth Noy. You ever talk German?
No, ma'am.
Well, New means Noy, or Noy means new.
Okay.
So his name was Noy,
Okay.
N-E-U.
Mm-hmm. What kind of work did your father do?
He was a farmer. Mm-hmm.
When did they come to this country?
I have it down in the,
Yeah.
I should have brought my
Yeah.
books.
Did they tell you why they came to this country?
Well, I think it was because they wanted to get away from the war. Does that make sense? But that's right.
Mm-hmm.
But that is correct. Many people came in those years because they wanted to, didn't want their boys to have to go through the wars that were going on then.
Yeah.
And then we had some here anyway.
Did they talk about the boat trip to this country?
About what?
About the boat trip coming over?
Well, I don't remember. Well, they did, but I just can't find it right now. They did some. How? What about what like? What?
Oh, just what life was like on the boat coming
Mhm.
over. You know, what kind of meals did they eat on the boat?
Oh, they had good eats, and no, it seemed like it was rather okay. It didn't seem like it was bad. They just were in a group.
How come they came to Kansas?
Well, we wait a minute. Well, there was a group of them, and many had relatives in Kansas then already, and they came on account of not having to send their children to war. That was the greatest one that I remember,
Mm-hmm.
and also that they could have a farm of their own. That's what.
Did your father get a homestead in Kansas?
Yeah, he farmed. He got a farm.
Mhm.
They bought it, but very, very different from it is now. It was much cheaper. It was almost a penny like what things are now.
Yeah. What kind of house did you live in as a child?
Well, we had, when I don't remember so much about the earliest one, but when we moved to Oklahoma, we had 2 rooms for 9 children. There were 9 children and the parents, and it was crowded and then, oh, you better not print that, maybe. My mother was, she was a worker. We had a chicken house on the place, and she whitewashed it with, what is it?
What with what? Just
She cleaned it with,
yeah.
whitewashed it with.
Or just was whitewash or paint?
No, well, it wasn't exactly paint. It was called something else, but I cannot find it right now. And she made they mixed it with water and then painted it with that white. What? I wish I had my husband here. He's smarter than I was. And I am.
Your mother whitewashed the chicken house?
Huh?
Your mother whitewashed the chicken house?
Yeah.
How come?
Well, they were to have it clean. There were mites in the wood, but not only mites, but bed bugs. That's right. There were bed bugs in the wood. It was an old building, and they cleaned it that way.
How come they cleaned it?
Keep us healthy.
Oh, so you all moved in the chicken house. What part of Oklahoma did you settle on?
Well, it was between Moundridge and Newton.
Now that's in Kansas, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Now when did you come to Oklahoma?
When?
Yes, ma'am.
I was 11, and I am now how old? I am 90, almost 94, going on 94.
So you came here about 1901.
That's right, that's about right. 19, that's right, I remember.
Can you remember what chores you did on a farm in Kansas?
Well, they planted wheat, they had cattle, a few pigs, and horses. Later on, my husband had sheep. Well, after we got on the farm, after we came to, oh, that's too far back.
What part of Oklahoma did you settle on?
You know where Heston was?
Heston?
Heston, Kansas. Well, it's between Moundridge and Newton, or in that in the settlement. There's a big German settlement started there, in between Moundridge and Newton.
Did you help your mother make soap?
Sure.
How do you make it?
Well, we had a kettle, see,
About
this big around.
3 feet in diameter.
Iron, and she put a lot of water in it, so much water. I can't exactly give the ingredients, but a lot of water in it and a lot of lard, scraps, and put lye in that, and that stirred and cooked it. She had it on a fire in a big iron kettle outside, burned wood under it, and cooked it and stirred it. And the thing she stirred it with was they had a big pole and had a little cross piece right at the end with
Kind of a paddle?
something to down below, a piece of wood down below so it would stir the bottom and everything.
How long would you have to stir it?
Well, until it formed, when you tried it, until it got kind of hard.
Excuse me.
Until it got kind of,
You stirred it until it got hard?
huh?
You stirred the soap until it got hard?
Till it got, so she thought it was ready to let it dry. Then you had to dry it and then slice it. And
How do you dry it?
in the kettle,
Oh, so you
For-
cut it. You cut it while it's in the kettle.
yeah.
Okay.
Cook it, boil it in an iron kettle. And then it had to dry in there or get thick, like, well, you know, what does, like if you make soup with flour in it, that
Yeah.
would
Okay.
that would explain it.
How'd you do the laundry? How did you do the laundry?
At first.
On a rub board? Tell me, how would you heat the water and, you know, just tell me, how did you do the laundry? Just explain it to me.
Well, we had a big kettle.
Same kettle you made soap in?
Yeah. Well, no, this was, a kind of, it had a bottom sealed in with something, and you could have that long stick like, and a board across here
Yeah.
with a little something underneath to stir the whole thing, stir it
So
all.
you stirred the laundry too?
Huh?
This is the laundry?
Oh,
So this,
well, not always, no, not that way. That we just had to
just boil it?
boil it and use a stopper.
Yeah, just poked it. How long did you have to boil the clothes?
Not very long. I couldn't say the exact minutes.
Then you had to use a rub board and rub them.
No, it wasn't rubber. It was,
You just rubbed them on a rub board.
yeah,
Yeah.
at first.
When did you get your first washing machine?
Well, it was a different washing machine than you ever saw, I think.
How was it different?
It had there's a kettle, and it's got boards underneath, and it's kind of made like a swing,
Yeah.
and then there were some boards up here. Take a hold of that, and
So you move the board back and forth. Oh, and that turns the paddle inside that.
yeah.
Okay.
Goodness, how can you make anything out of all that?
Do you remember where you settled in Oklahoma when you moved down here?
Yeah, I remember very well. It was between Mound Ridge,
Now that's in Kansas, isn't it?
that's in Kansas.
Now when did you move to Oklahoma?
Oh, yes. Yes, I sure do.
Where?
Near Deer Creek, Oklahoma.
Deer Creek.
hmm
That was about 1901.
Yeah.
How come you moved to Oklahoma?
Well, my father was restless, and he wanted a farm of his own. He wanted 80 acres, and he wanted to come to, that was open then. That was the time when everybody went to get a piece of land for their own. That's why they came.
How did you come to Oklahoma?
Well, my son, I said my son, but I mean my brother, drove a bunch of horses and cattle, and in a wagon, and we came on the train.
You came on the train.
My mother and I think we were, how many? 11 children.
Do you remember the train trip?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
don't know if I can tell anything new. I don't know. It's just,
How many horses did your brother drive down?
well, he had a mover wagon and had some hitch to the wagon.
A
and
mover
then-
wagon?
Mhm.
What's a mover wagon?
It had a cover over it.
Oh, a kind of a covered wagon.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It was more like not like a tent, only it was a tent, only it was rounded, so the rain could run off.
Yeah.
I guess.
Is that what they call a wagon sheet?
No, I don't remember that. I don't have.
Did your father charter an immigrant car? Did you put all your belongings on the train and come down?
Well, my mother and the children rode on a car.
Yeah. Okay. How big was Deer Creek at that time?
Not very much. Land. If you could go out to where I was living, we had some pictures of the. I didn't bring it here though.
Yeah.
Picture
What did Deer Creek look like? What did the town look like at that time?
Did you ever hear of Mr. Lehman?
Mr. Lehman.
Uh-huh.
I've heard the name.
Yeah. Well, he came from Missouri, and he had wait a minute. My husband's uncle and his wife, they came, and his relatives came first, and they had a little start.
Did your father get a homestead or a claim down here?
Mhm.
Did he buy a farm?
Yeah.
How much did he pay for it?
It seems to me like it was 1,300 or 1,000. I don't remember.
How many acres did he get?
80.
80?
Mhm.
And what kind of house did you live in when you first came to Oklahoma?
In a house, just 2 rooms, whole batch of children.
9 children?
Yeah.
How did you sleep 11 people in 2 rooms?
Well, you didn't know my mother, did you?
No, ma'am.
She was quite a worker, and there was a smaller chicken house on the place, and she whitewashed it with that. I cannot think of the white, what that's called now. I can't think. And she whitewashed it, and there were 2 rooms, and then there was.
Did you live in the chicken house then?
Sure, but it wasn't a chicken house when we lived in
True.
it.
So you had a 2-room house plus a chicken house.
And I moved that up closer to
Okay.
the 2 rooms, and yeah.
What kind of chores did you do on the farm in Oklahoma?
Well, we usually had chickens and cows. We milked cows. I did too, and gathered the eggs. And we ate chicken. Oh, it wasn't always a fancy. It wasn't always a fancy dinner, but we didn't mind. We were young.
Did you do any plowing?
Anyway.
Did you ever plow?
No, I didn't. I didn't work in the field.
What kind of crops did your father raise in Oklahoma?
Wheat, corn, wheat, corn.
Tell me about harvest time.
Well, that was different at times too. You know, oh goodness, I wish some of my people were here so they could answer some of those questions.
Did you have how long did it take to harvest the wheat?
I couldn't
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to put just the time on it.
Did your father own a thresher?
No, he and the neighbors bought one together.
Mm-hmm.
He and some of the neighbors bought a thrash machine, and they thrashed together then. They thrashed each other's wheat. And that's the way they harvested the wheat.
How did they harvest the wheat? Do you remember?
With a combine? Combine?
No, before the combine.
Oh, we didn't. We had one of those scythes, but there wasn't much harvested that way. I don't remember much, but we used it quite a bit because we had to fight weeds. We had a lot of weeds on the place and around the buildings and around the house. And oh, my mother worked.
When did you see your first combine?
Oh, that was quite an event. Our neighbors and my father went together and bought a machine. But first it was not only a combine, it was I don't have any older brothers or sisters living anymore. I wish my
What did you think when you saw your first combine?
I think when I don't know the year, but when the first ones came out, some of the neighbors and my father went together and bought one. They bought a machine to cut it, and they cut together that way, helped each other.
How much did the machine cost? Do you remember Statehood Day?
Huh?
Do you remember Statehood Day when Oklahoma became a state? It was 1907.
Well, I should, but I don't remember anything very spectacular right now.
What's your favorite childhood memory?
Childhood? Well, one was when we lived on one farm and then decided to move to Oklahoma and had to leave some of the things that I'd been playing with. I was 11 and I remember riding on the train and how we all must have looked a lot of small people. My mother.
You ever see the Indians around here?
We saw some.
What did they look like?
Well, we were rather afraid at first, and
Did you get to know any of them?
No, not, I don't remember that. I don't remember that right now. I think it seems to me like we did, but I can't remember anything special.
Yeah.
They
there
were
was,
all right,
yeah.
they were good, they were friendly,
There was a depression in 1907.
yeah,
Do you remember that?
I remember.
Tell me about that.
Well, we did without many things. Often took a dozen eggs, 2 dozen, sometimes more, to buy a little something. And then we had to save up some more to buy the next living. And
Where did you start to school?
I don't know whether it was Moundridge or where. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I know.
Did you go to school in Oklahoma?
Mm-hmm.
Where?
Deer Creek.
Deer Creek.
Mm-hmm. John F. Holder was my teacher at one time. You know John F. Holder?
I've heard the name.
Uh-huh.
Where exactly is Deer Creek?
Where what?
Where exactly is Deer Creek?
The school?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was in the little town, little town. It wasn't a city. It was just a small buildings. And I got some pictures at home.
How far from Blackwell is Deer Creek?
About 14 miles.
About 14 miles.
14, 15.
Ever hear of a French trading post up there?
Of whom?
Ever hear of the old French trading post?
Yes. I don't know anything about it though.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about it.
What did you hear about it, or did you hear anything about it?
I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's. Tell me about World War One.
Well, it was an awful thing. When was that?
1917, 1918. Did you do any work for the war effort?
For what?
Did you do any work for the war effort? Like, did you knit or wrap bandages?
No, I was quite young yet. I helped many people that needed help. I was one that had to go and work in the homes of other people quite a bit. And even worked for or stayed with my husband's relatives. They lived in Deer Creek, and they had come quite early to Oklahoma, and lived in Deer Creek, and Mr. Lehman had a store in Deer Creek. He came from Missouri, and I was in their home and went to school from there and helped in their home when their children were little.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any memories of the Spanish-American War, 1898?
Not enough to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you remember Armistice Day, when the war ended? Tell me about that day.
A lot of noise.
Were you living in Deer Creek at that time?
18 when?
It was 1918.
18, well, we came, I was 11.
Well, that was 1901 when you first moved to Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Were you living in Deer Creek on Armistice Day?
I think so.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Did you join in all the celebrations?
No.
What was the big celebration like? What did people do?
No, we didn't. We didn't go much then. We had horse and buggy. We didn't have cars when we came to Oklahoma. We drove horse and buggy, and you know, then you don't go too much yet.
Mm-hmm.
Then you don't drive around much. We went to church. We there were some people. Oh boy.
Mm-hmm.
Started a Mennonite Church.
Tell me about the Mennonites.
Well, they came to America from Germany and other places, and they did not want the wars. They did not want wars, so they came to Oklahoma and didn't have to. I remember the day when they had to register too, but boy, I wish I could help you better.
Oh,
but
you are.
I don't.
Yeah. Was there much protest among the Mennonites about having to register?
Well, they didn't want to register. They didn't want wars.
Yeah. But did they register?
Well, they had to, I believe. I think they had to.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't all. Some went to prison, but I can't.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I was too young.
The 1920s.
Mm.
Did you bob your hair in the 1920s?
I never had my hair cut.
Yeah.
I have never had it cut, but my younger sisters all did. We were 5 girls and 4 boys in the family. And I had a sister that was older than myself, and she was the eldest in a family of 9 children. And she didn't have hers cut until she had to lie in bed before she passed away. And that was here in Blackwell too.
Mm-hmm.
She passed away. And my sister Emma didn't have hers cut either, but she did earlier than I did. She was younger than myself. She studied to be a nurse, and she was in Blackwell longer than we were. I got married, and she didn't. My sister Mary didn't either. And
what do you remember of Blackwell the first time you came here? What did Blackwell look like?
very small,
What did downtown look like? The main street?
kind of. Well, I remember walking on Mr. Lehman's store. That was it was. I have pictures at home. I have a picture where it was taken of this Lehman's store. You know anything about it?
No.
They had a furniture store, and
What was Mr. Lehman like?
well, many called him a Jew, but we thought he was all right. He was. I stayed in their home. I know they were all right. I know they were good people. I was in their home when they had small children, and he had the store pretty early, quite early, and he wanted to work in the store, and his wife, he needed help, and his wife wanted to help him. So I was chosen to work in their home and take care of the meals and take care of the children. I would, you didn't know James Lehman? You didn't know any
No.
of the boys?
No, ma'am.
He was quite a small boy then. Goodness, you can't make anything out of what I can't say, can you? I just can't. I'm just not a, I can't write a letter today. I guess.
Who was Mr. Blackwell? Who was Mr. Blackwell?
Well, I remember the name, but I remember, I don't know, I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
In the 1930s, how did the Great Depression affect you and your family?
Well, we just went to town with sometimes a couple of dozen eggs, sometimes a case of eggs, and spend it until it was gone, bought with it. And that's the way it was done, just slow and easy, slow and careful.
What kind of meals did you fix in those years?
What we raised when we were home with my mother, she was a gardener. She liked to work in the garden and raised a lot of vegetables. And that's what we ate then. That's what we usually made our meals out of, garden produce. And we did too when we were first married.
Ever have a time in those years when you didn't have enough to eat?
I don't remember that we did. We always had something to eat. When we didn't have anything else, she would bake bread. Sometimes they'd grind wheat, bake with that, with wheat. Sometimes corn. We'd have cornbread, but that had to be ground and baked.
Did you grind your own corn and wheat?
We took it to if I remember right, we were able to take it to one of the little towns that had a mill that would grind.
Where was the mill?
Where? I don't remember for sure whether it was Moundridge or Halstead. We lived between Moundridge and Halstead, so we sometimes went to Halstead to later in.
What did you do during World War II, 1940s, 41 through 45?
In what way?
Did you do any work for the war effort?
Well, we did some, but I cannot remember just how. My mother always was ready to help. She came from Germany, and they were used to many wars there. They always had. That's the reason they wanted to come. They decided to come to America because there wouldn't have to be so many wars. And then when they came to America, they were here too. So,
would you reflect on your life as a farm? Would you reflect on your life as a farmer's wife in early day Oklahoma?
threat?
Reflect on it.
Oh.
Just tell me about being a farmer's wife in early day Oklahoma.
Well, it wasn't fancy. it was a lot of work. We worked, we worked, we worked. We worked way in the night sometimes. I canned a lot of vegetables, beans and peas. Sometimes we had to cook them most of the night, cook them in a boiler of hot water in fruit jars. Put the lids on and boiled the whole thing covered with water. Sometimes we got up in the middle of the night and turned off the fire when it was. Yep, we worked. But they all grew up, and I'm just plenty proud of my family.
How many kids do you have? 4?
Mm-hmm. 2 boys and 2 girls. And one boy lives in Oklahoma City, and he's been with the school activities, been with the school business. He was band teacher for quite a while, and taught band and marched with we went to some of the games that his band played in. And when we thought it was good. Now don't laugh at that.
No. What kind of games did you play as a child?
Oh goodness, we played lots of. Oh my land, you should have given me a year's notice. Ring around the rosy. That's one. Take a hold of hands and go around in a circle.
What about the flu epidemic of 1918?
Well, we were all in bed at one time, my family. And
did many people around here die from that flu?
Huh?
Did many people around here die from the flu epidemic?
Seems to me like quite a few. I couldn't tell any estimate now because it's been long.
Do you remember any home medicines or home remedies that you or your mother used when you got sick?
We nearly always, when we had real sickness, always found some kind of a doctor. And we're nearly always fortunate enough to be close enough. We had one in Deer Creek even, Dr. Martin, and he was really a good doctor.
What was he like?
Huh?
What was he like, Dr. Martin?
Lived on a farm. No, they lived in town, and she is quite good in helping too. His wife was really good. And
well, Mrs. Moyer, I think we have a good interview.
no, I don't. I feel very dumb.
Oh, maybe we can do it again sometime.
Well, if I could have done it better earlier, I know, because I haven't thought of it for so long. That's the trouble.
Yeah.
We've worked on our farm, and
What are the advantages of farm life? What do you like about farm life?
well, I kind of like to have children there. I like that. And I think happened so that mine are all pretty good. You know.
Would you do it all again?
Well, if I had a good husband like I had, I wouldn't mind. He was good. And
What was your husband's name?
William Quintus Moyer.
Where'd you meet him?
Hmm?
Where did you meet him?
Deer Creek,
Where was he from?
Missouri. And when my family and I came to Deer Creek, my folks and I was standing in the door and he noticed me. He thought he saw me then, and we courted for 4 years though before we got married.
Are you Mennonite?
Huh?
Are you Mennonite brethren? Are you Mennonite brethren?
No, not brethren, just Mennonite.
Just Mennonite.
Uh-huh.
What are the basic beliefs of the Mennonites?
Well, I think the main one is the religious part, and also the not to have wars, just to get along without wars.
Yeah.
I think that's the one of them.
Ever been to a barn raising?
Huh?
Ever go to a barn raising?
Barn raising? No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, we didn't. We didn't do much traveling, much going in those years because we.
What is the difference between the Mennonites and the Amish?
Just a little in the religion, I think. They believed in wearing something on their head when they went to church. Our church never made any notice of that, especially.
When did you and your husband buy your first car?
It was a 49. And it was a good car. It was a new one. Where, you say?
Yes, where did you buy it also?
Huh?
Where did you buy the car?
Well, I think in Deer Creek.
Deer Creek? Some of the Amish people don't believe in cars.
Well, that wasn't our case.
Yeah. Okay.
No, that's not. The Mennonites weren't that way. They believed in working on with machinery and cars.
Mrs. Moyer, I want to thank you.
Oh, I'm ashamed.
Oh.
I don't think I.
Well, when I come back, we can do it again.
Well, maybe I'd have a little more open mind. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
it's been a long time since I thought of all those things. For one thing, that's no kidding. That's right.
Yeah. Thank you.